IFA, of course, has an official daily magazine, and our next guest is responsible for not only keeping it interesting, but keeping it published and informing all the visitors and even us media types as to what's going on here at IFA. He's the editor-in-chief of IFA International. Richard Barnes, welcome back into Tomorrow.
Thanks, Dave. It's great to be here.
Always a pleasure to have you, because I also like to pick your brain about the show itself, too. You know, what has jumped out at you? And before we get into some other fun things, tell me a little bit about the background of IFA International and what is it that you do with the show daily to help inform the folks?
Okay, the background actually is, as you remember, but probably some of the people listening to this might not be aware, we started IFA International about 8 years ago. Along the lines, and this is something that's been a big change in IFA over the last 8 years, is that at that point, 8 years ago, it was a very German show.
Yeah.
And the only daily was IFA Heute, which still exists, and it's a great magazine for the German people.
But it's all in German.
It's all in German, so for people like us, it makes it very confusing.
Yeah.
So
you can look at the nice pictures and say,
yeah,
but what are they saying
which
about
I can read very well.
Yes.
And so we had to come up with a concept to make a daily for IFA that would really give the trade visitors coming here and also the media coming here as well all the information they need every day to know what's going on at the show. So it's kind of for the trade, we want to make it a buying tool. So it's not just a magazine with fun stuff and interesting stuff. It's got to be really constructive, useful information. So we wanted to make this a buying tool for international visitors to IFA, and that's how we started the magazine.
And I see people to this day dog-earing certain pages, and that's always a good thing. It's got to warm the cockles of your heart to know that they're using it also as a guide around the show.
They do.
And saying, I've got to see this, and we've got to go talk about this. Perhaps it's a product we want to carry in our chain of stores or something. And that's what these kinds of trade shows are all about, in addition to announcing very cool new products.
That's the idea. Is of course, when people come to the show, they see the big players, the main players. But what's really, really important is, and as you do so very well, is to get the finger on the pulse of what's going to be different, what's new, what's up and coming, and so that we can help these people find those little pearls that they wouldn't have otherwise found.
And that's cool, because I'll admit we use the IFA International Daily for the same reason. Our producers go out and say, let's go find someone to talk about that on the show. Our audience would like to know about these cool new things, which brings me to the point of what have you seen on the show floor? If you're like me, you don't have a lot of time on the show floor. You're busy interviewing and doing things. But what's jumped out at you at this IFA that you just wish you could have?
What has jumped out at me in particular is it's more of a groundswell trend, which you've probably been noticing, as the Chinese companies are becoming much more quality oriented.
Yeah.
Their marketing is getting much better. We're seeing, for example,
the Chinese have been learning capitalism very well over the last several years.
Really, and I've been talking to the people at the big Korean companies. They're very worried now about what's happening with the Chinese companies, and so they should be.
Yeah.
We're seeing, for example, TCL. They're going to be opening the new second generation 8.5 fab with China Star. That's really going to put a cat among the pigeons with the TV business.
Putting a cat among the pigeons, are you?
Yeah.
Okay.
And actually, one of the things I saw, which I thought was very interesting, also coming, and it's not an ad for them either, but Alcatel One Touch have some very interesting stuff at their booth. It was a photovoltaic overlay for a mobile phone. So their next generation mobile phones will be able to charge themselves by sitting on the table.
Nice.
Which I thought is very, very clever.
Yeah, and of course we're bound to get to those kinds of products, and that's the evolution of consumer electronics and technology. It's great.
So this is good. Of course, everybody's seeing the new smartwatches. I've got a smart. We've all got smart things.
If you're not smart, if you're not wearing a smartwatch, I guess.
That's the big thing. The other thing, and you were just mentioning in our editorial this weekend, was the attack of the robots.
Yes, that caught my attention, and I'm glad you brought it up, because I certainly wanted to ask you about that. Tell our audience what the attack of the robots is about.
It's something that I've and also at that big US show I've been seeing as well. Is there's so much more robotic stuff coming in, And not just robotic cleaners for the floor, but you've got robotic lawnmowers, you've got pool cleaners, you've got leaf cleaners out of the gutter. I mean, all sorts of stuff. And of course, then it's going further steps. And so that's something that's really a big trend. And what I think is interesting is to see how that's going to link in with the smart home. Will everything just be run by robots? What's going to happen?
Yeah.
So I think that's a really a big groundswell trend.
They can kind of be scary too, in
It
some
is a little
senses.
bit scary.
When they're talking about the connected home, how connected do we really need to be? And are we getting close to that Jetsons era of just everything being so high tech? And of course, the answer is yes, in many ways.
Yeah.
We don't have the flying cars yet that everybody has, and so forth.
No,
but
I'm still waiting for the flying car.
Yeah, me too. Mine's been in the shop for some time.
Yeah.
But there's certainly, it's an understatement to say there is a ton of interesting and new stuff.
I'm seeing more innovation at this show than I've seen in the past years.
Yes.
By a long shot.
I
This
know.
show has more innovation. There's a massive amount of new stuff.
They're telling us some 35,000 new products are being introduced here at this year's
Yeah,
IFA.
yeah.
It's truly amazing.
It really is amazing this year, for sure.
Well, Richard, always a pleasure to have you on with us, and of course we're flat out of time. What else is new? But making way to talk to other exhibitors and kind of wrapping up this year's IFA coverage. So we appreciate your input, and you can visit IFA-international.org for more information. I'll bet you can.
And you can download the dailies as well.
Thank you very much.
Yeah,
That's
get
what I was
them
going
in
to say.
Flipbook as well.
There
Yep.
you go. So you can see all of these show dailies. Oh, and on page 20 of day 1, you'll see a little something special about Into Tomorrow. That's all I'm going to tease you with.
Great article.
It is, as if you wrote it yourself. IFA-international.org. I'm Dave Graveline. Into Tomorrow continues from Berlin, Germany on the Advanced Media Network.